Hello, Trevor. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Let me just make you the presenter, Trevor, and then you can show your screen. Okay. 1 second. You have the power, I believe. You got it? There you go. I think that's it. So we've got about 27 attendees, and it's 8:01. So I think we get 5:05. Sorry. So I think we can get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining our technical analysis webinar. Just to let you know that the webinar will be approximately 30 minutes long. A couple of things we want to remind you of before we start. If you have any questions or queries about the webinar, please send them to our email address, which is webinar@myfxchoice.com. We had a few questions this week sent to our main customer service addresses, and they took a bit of time to filter through to us, so it's best just to send us an email directly. Secondly, as always, if you do have a slow internet connection, you can dial into this webinar using the instructions provided in the registration email. Also in the registration email is a link to the bio of our presenter, Trevor Neal. I'm sure most of you already know Trevor. Trevor is a veteran trader and technical analyst. He's been doing it since the 70s. He worked in companies like Merrill Lynch and Bloomberg, and was also a board member of the Society of Technical Analysts. So we're in experienced hands. For anyone who hasn't used GoToWebinar before, you can ask questions for Trevor in the little questions tab on the GoToWebinar gadget, I suppose, or widget. Please try to keep the questions on topic, because today we have a lot to get through. Trevor's got a lot of material to put out today. So Trevor, over to you. What do we have this week? Tense markets, Bitcoin marauding, bulldozing its way through various boundaries. What else have we got this week?
Okay, well, we've got a lot of tension in the market. There's a lot of imminent news going to come out, the election, Brexit, and everybody's reacting to that news. But basically, there's a lot of wait and see going on, the US recovery budget and so forth. There's just a lot holding the market. And some of them are really going into bit ranges. Let's start with the euro. The euro last week came up quite strongly, but within its trading range. It was supported at the July low here. The weekly MACD, I want to draw your attention. So the longer term direction of the euro has turned down now during this consolidation. This changes my bias completely. But in the daily chart currently, the RSI and the MACD in the daily chart, the RSI here is still an upward trajectory, and the 20 period moving average is above the 50, which is above the 200. And so from a shorter term perspective, from a daily perspective, we are moving, edging higher, I think is probably the right word. But here's the real clue to what's going on here. The ADX, the average directional index, which measures the trendiness of the market, and that's at a very low reading of 13. It's come down and down and down. And this means that the amount of trend in the market is low. This means that it's really most suited for mean reverting type trading in this condition. And so we are in a range, and so the sort of strategies which are going to work well is if the market turns down from this upper Bollinger Band, for example, that might be an opportunity. If it comes down to the lower Bollinger Band, that might be an opportunity. Turning down, as it has done already with the RSI through the overbought level here, would already have given you a signal that this range is about to visit the lower end of the range. So that's the expectation, really, and that's a reflection, really, of the cross currents of all the news at the moment, is that it is building up into a range trading market for a moment, for this moment. Cable. Let's look at the weekly chart, get the big picture here. The weekly chart, really, in my opinion, is neutral. Look at the MACD here. It's been right on top of the signal line for a few weeks now. The RSI is at 54, so this is a neutral reading in the weekly chart. The daily chart is flirting with the 50 period moving average again. This is, you see how important this has been. We plunged when we went through it, we came up, rallied to it, came up, rallied to it, turned down again, powered when we went through it. Now we've come back to it again here. The 20 is below the 50, but they're above the 200. We're trading within the Bollinger Bands. We hit the upper one, we've moved down. The MACD is positive and the RSI is about neutral, reading 53. The ADX is also low on this, 15% reading on that. So that's telling us we're in a ranging condition. And I think we're turning down from the upper Bollinger Band here. And it's probably going to make a break very, very soon. But at the moment, it's just backing and filling as it waits for news to give it good direction. I want to look at the Swiss franc. We haven't looked at that till now. The Swiss franc, again, I'll start with the weekly chart. So each bar here is a week, just to show you what an important level we're at on the Swiss franc. And we've been at this level for a while now, the 90-cent level here. We're flirting with this low again. So let's have a look at the behavior as we retest this very, very important level. This falling price is, of course, falling dollar, rising Swiss franc. So on the daily chart, on the daily chart, we're in this downward channel, approaching here. I've drawn the 90-cent level in here, and we're approaching that level. So how's it going to behave here? We've come up through the lower RSI, I hate to call this the oversold line here, but we've come up through the lower line here, which is showing it basing out here. The MACD is negative. The ADX is at 17, not particularly high, so confirming this sort of range trading activity. So we should, in the next bar or two, next day or two, test again this downward channel, but it is guiding us towards this 90 level. Something's got to happen. We've got to bounce again, like we've done again and again and maybe again. And the trigger that would confirm that to us is the break of this down channel here. So watch out for that. But watch out, of course, if we break down through there, if the dollar breaks down through there, because that is an extremely significant dollar support level. I think it's going to hold, but watch it like a hawk. I'd like to also talk about the Norwegian crown here. Let's again look at the weekly chart of that firstly, and we've got this very important point of 880 here, resistance, 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 broke it, support, and then months later support again there, and so that's a very important level to know, but we're way off it now. Is there a potential head and shoulders here, head and shoulders top, moving up, pullback, new high, pullback, lower high, and then neckline. We haven't broken the neckline, so it isn't a head and shoulders yet. We've just got a high, higher high, and lower high. And to be honest with you, we haven't moved strongly into it. You know, we haven't had a strong trend which is terminating. But potentially we could have a downward move if this neckline does give way. 920 is currently the level for it. So watch this very closely indeed. And you see also how the Bollinger Bands are pinching here. And that's a warning of impending increase in volatility, sort of thing like we've had here. So it's either going to hold, in which case it isn't a head and shoulders pattern, or it's going to make the break. But we know the trigger and we know what to do if it breaks. The Australian dollar now. Again, I want to remind ourselves of the big context, the weekly chart, where for some reason the market is rather slow. So we've obviously the Australian dollar went up strongly in this period here, and then now we've got this easy to triangular pattern. I'm not quite sure it is yet, confirmation it is, but we've definitely got this lower tops pattern up here. So if we look at the daily chart here, there's the lower tops pattern in there, and that's very, very clear. So the Australian dollar, it almost got to its round number last week of 70, which we had suggested it would do, since it had broken out of this flag formation. Do you remember the flag pole, the rising channel here, breakdown, and then projecting it down to the support at 70, very important support at 70, and it got within a few cents of it there, and then now it's bounced from that level predictably. It got really an electric shock at that point there. So the concern now is the trading from July to now is a broad topping formation, as we can see, we saw on the weekly chart, and this would threaten the March low if we broke down for it. So I'm really looking for some sort of recognizable chart pattern to develop in this market right now. But we know we're bound by the 70 level here, and we've got these gently declining tops across here, which indicate to us, I'll get rid of that, it's rather annoying that it's blocked. So yeah, so we're trading within that channel now. The RSI is at 50. So it's got, again, another market caught in the cross currents of news that is at a very crucial level. And I think there's some big moves afoot, you know, just as we're sort of running out of interest and saying, oh, these markets are really sleepy, then we have a big break. Now, the main beneficiary of the dollar move we had was not gold this time, but it was Bitcoin. And look at this. So Bitcoin was really this week's star market, in my opinion. I'll just get the context again by showing you the weekly chart, and also reminding you what a beauty of a market this is from a technical analyst point of view. Here recently we had these tops in here that, again exerting resistance again, then we broke powerfully through, then we came back and retraced, we bounced up. Now we've broken through the 12,000 level, and look at these round numbers, how we lurch from round number to round number, and you know, we just seem to go, here's 5,000, 10,000, 12,000 here. So what next for this? Going back to this is the weekly chart, you can see that we're very bullish here with higher lows in place. This previous high here is really not in any way a significant resistance level, and won't really present any significant trouble for the market if it wants to break through it. We have to go back to into here. And so I measured from here to here using Fibonacci. I can see the 50% level is where we are now, and that's 12,700 is the 50% level. I think that having made the move that we've made now, we should go to the 61.8% level, which you see is 15,000 here. And so I think that this move, this swing here, should get us up to there, and then we should be probably consolidate a bit before a challenge on the all-time high. But this is a remarkable market, a wonderful market. And in the shorter term, we are consolidating slightly here now. The RSI is at a very high level. From a short-term perspective, if it comes down below the upper line here, then I think it could drop back. It could even drop back to 12,000 conceivably here. But it is looking strong. Look at this ADX here, powering ahead here, 41 the reading, very, very strong trend is the message of it here. And the MACD, weekly MACD is also positive. And so this looks good. If we do get a dip as a result of this consolidation, causing a pullback, then I do feel that it will be an opportunity. Okay, now moving on to gold. Let's look at the weekly one chart firstly in gold. It's stalled a bit. It's forming this triangle, this descending triangle. As I see it, we've got these lower tops in place here. We've got the 2 or 3 significant lows here at 1850, around just 1860, around that level there. We've got the big round number of $2,000 there, which we did penetrate. So that's the overall picture here. The weekly MACD has turned down, and the RSI is at 50, so it's neutral, but the weekly analysis is negative now on gold. The daily chart now looks rather flat. In the short term, we've got this uptrend line here over the last few weeks, and this is being threatened by the activity at the moment, although I've got a feeling that it's going to hold. The reason I have that feeling is there's no enthusiasm as it tests the line. Here, this candle here is a very insipid sort of candle. The RSI is at 50, 49. The ADX is down at 15%, and that tells me that we're in a ranging market and not really got any downside power behind it. So I think that we'll probably hold the line and continue to churn away a little bit sideways. Really, I've heard people say that a lot of the interest has moved into Bitcoin away from gold. Similarly with silver, silver's still better than gold, but still it's lost a lot of its heat at the moment. Moving on now to the stock markets. So let's start with the US 500 and remind ourselves of this the weekly chart, and just remind ourselves of better days, I would say. And this substantial run up here. We've had quite a dump here. The MACD is still positive, oddly enough. It's still above its signal line. The RSI on the weekly has turned down to 50, so that's gone neutral there. On the daily chart, we got a ADX which is down near 13, which shows no real trend and really reflects this churning behavior we've had since September. It did look as though it was going to break up and make a new high, but it has failed now, definitely failed now, and today's action is extremely negative. The RSI has been brought down to 35 level here and is probably going to go lower. We've broken the 50-day average, or we're breaking the 50-day average, and watch out because the Bollinger Bands are pinching. And this tells me that there's an impending big move afoot. Not that today's move is not big, but another big move up or down is close here. But we're really more or less mid-range here since September, and I think that will continue. And the ADX is really telling the true story. We're down here at these low readings here. It's a trading vehicle. So if the RSI comes down below the oversold line here and then turns up again, that's probably a buy, but it can go much lower before that is the case. The UK 100. Let me just show you the weekly chart on that. We're sagging here. The 50 is below the 200 here. The MACD is just marginally positive. The RSI on the weekly is negative. So here's the pattern. But what you can see is a very important level that's being tested again. We probed through it on Thursday. This 5,770 level. It's a slight down slope in it. It's very important indeed, and we're testing it. So it's got to hold if it's going to hold. If not, we can really plummet from here. And what I do notice is that we've got high, lower high, lower high. Every time the market bounces from this level, the sellers get control earlier, and so I think that this is an indication that that it is going to eventually break this line here. The pressure is on for it. The impetus for this could quite easily be, of course, a run up in sterling. That's very negative for the for the FTSE, particularly as an index compared to other indices, because it's got so many dollar earning securities, so many commodity companies in the index as the heavyweights in the index, rather than UK domestic companies. And this means it's extremely vulnerable to sterling moves, and any move up in sterling is negative for the people earning their income in dollars. And so this could be the impetus to push the FTSE down through that line if we get some good news on Brexit, and that might be the trigger to take us through there. But watch that level. It's a very important level. You can see how important it is here. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 lows at the same level, but every time it bounces, it fails at a lower level. All right, going to some shares now. Let's go back to some of the ones we looked at before. First of all, AUDUSD. Why did I like AUDUSD? Well, it's because of the weekly chart here. Got this nice uptrend here, very strong message from the weekly MACD, but the RSI came up and it's turned down. Now the weekly RSI has turned down. The MACD has not, but let's see how this translates on the daily chart. Well, it translates on the daily chart by a flattening out behavior here and putting in this sort of top. I should make this resistance line a dashed line here because it's a bit imprecise, but we can see where it is. But we have got rising lows in here, and so this is should resolve itself to the upside as an ascending triangle. I remain bullish of this because of the weekly chart, and because now we've got this classic pausing pattern which should resolve itself to the upside. But we are at the lower end of it at the moment. The upper end of it here, of course, is at 286, about 286, 287. That's the area that we need to break. And so I'm waiting for that, but I do think it will eventually resolve itself to the upside. The other one I liked in Europe, I mentioned the last time, was Daimler. And let's have a look at the weekly on that. Well, this is a magnificent chart here, and we did have this pattern of high, lower high, lower high, and we're still powering on here, capable of making another lower high, but it has got a lot of power in it at the moment. The weekly MACD is very positive here. The RSI is holding up strongly here on the weekly chart, so it's looking good in there. So what have we got? Well, we've got a little bit of a flattening out pattern here, but we have got nice higher lows pattern, which I like a lot in here. The ADX has come down quite a lot, so a weakening of the trend, and we can see here a slight flattening out of it here. But I do think that this is really building up, just readjusting the overbought condition that it had got into, and it will resolve itself into the upside, and it probably is soon, because look at the pinching that's going on here, like this pinching here in the Bollinger Bands. This one's heading north, this one's heading south. This tells us something big is going to happen soon. I think it's the upside. I can't help noticing the 20 is above the 50, is above the 200 period moving average. The long-term trend is so strong. A pause within the long-term trend is often a good opportunity in the market. Then let's have a look at Amazon. Now, this one many of you will be familiar with, but let's have a look at it. Has it lost its sparkle or not? Well, we had this tremendous period here, but the weekly MACD has already crossed here after this top up in here. The RSI gave us a bearish divergence in here. Just draw it in for you here into the top. High, higher high, high, lower high. So the warning was in place there. Now it's unwinding that condition, and we've got now we're breaking this pattern of high, higher high, higher high, higher high, now lower high in here on the weekly charts. It's definitely lost a lot of its oomph, it's a lot of its mojo. That's the lower high here. That's the high there. So what does the shorter term picture tell us? It's trading around its 50 period moving average, which has gone quite flat. So when moving averages go flat, that is caused by sideways movement, and so that's reflecting the sideways movement. So it's near its 50-period moving average, also near its 20-period moving average. So you say from a short and intermediate term perspective, it's rather flat. It's right in the middle of its Bollinger Bands. The ADX is low, reflecting this trendless behavior. It was very trendy here and it gave us a high ADX, but now it's gone into a different mode, a different theme, which is backing and filling. So selling the upper band, buying the lower band, or selling the RSI going down through the upper level here, buying if it goes down below and coming up is the most profitable thing to do at the moment. So Amazon has lost its mojo, in my opinion. It hasn't put in a top yet. A lower high doesn't mean that it necessarily doesn't go up anymore, but it has. It is not what it was. Let's put it that way.
Right, so Dan, we do have a question.
Yes.
That's quite a big question, I'm
okay.
afraid. Asking if you can take a look at the Kiwi yen, Euro yen, and Euro Aussie. So he's wanting to look at 3 charts.
Okay, that's a greedy man there. Does anybody else want to look at anything?
What else have we got here? We've got here. He mentioned 20-day moving average. What's the other one? Are they exponential?
No, they're all simple. Yeah, they're simple. And the other 2 that I have on it are the dash one is the 20, the blue one is the 50, and the red one here, solid red one, is the 200 period moving average. So he did ask me for the Euro yen, I think was one of the ones he asked me for.
That was a different question. Sorry. Thank you,
right.
Stephen, for your question. Yeah, that was a different questioner. Sorry, Trevor.
That's okay. That's all right. Well, I used it to answer the question. So going back to the Euro yen, I look at the ADX here, and it's at 14. 14 tells me that this is not a trendy market. I think we can see that for ourselves. We'll go back to the weekly chart here, and in this period we were trendy, but now we've gone into a non-trendy condition. So we're oscillating. So lower Bollinger Band near the top here, once again near the top here, or if it hasn't even managed to cross above the upper level, my trigger level for the RSI. So if it had come above the RSI and come down, that would have been a sell. Well, it didn't. It didn't here either. The last signal was a buy here from it. And you'd definitely be out of that by now. But basically, oscillations, mean reverting type trading should be profitable. And we do seem to have this range at 122.5, and there's resistance here centered on about 124.50 area here. So a trading vehicle, sell strength buy weakness type vehicle. Okay, we've got time for another one, I think, in the last minute.
So we've got New Zealand yen as well. Also, we wanted to take a look at, and Euro Aussie.
Okay. So let's do Euro Aussie first. Okay, so the weekly trend firstly, the weekly MACD has crossed down, so it was up since June, and it's now crossed down, so it's looking negative, and rallies to me are to be sold. So let's have a look at the daily on it. So we've got a rally going on here. The ADX is actually is above 23, which is quite, a good reading. So not very strong trend, but we've got a trend here. The RSI gave a sell signal here as it came down through. That was on that first black candle there. So if I were using this as my trading method, I would be already short of this with a stop above that high there. And the MACD, which I wouldn't particularly take any notice of because it's too slow on the daily chart, but I take my direction from the message of it on the weekly chart. And don't forget, the message is negative for this, so the rally is to be sold. So I would hope, I haven't got this position, but I would hope that I would be short of it because the RSI went up and then came down. The 7-period RSI went up, came down, so it's 65 reading here, and I would be short of euro Australian dollar. And one more, did you say?
Well, yeah, the other one was New Zealand. It was Kiwi yen.
What's the first name of the person who's asking this? So just so I know.
Noble.
Noble. Oh yes. Okay.
A chap called Noble Thomas has asked this question.
Okay. Lovely name. Okay. So here's the I've got it right, haven't I yet? Oh no, I got it. That's not right. So it was. I'm sorry. Remind me what it was again. New Zealand dollar.
New Zealand dollar yen. Japanese yen.
I don't know why that went wrong there. Oh, what's happening here?
Has it malfunctioned?
No, it's a fat fingers problem. There we are. There, you got it now. Okay, so what have we got? Well, we've got so here we've got the ranging behavior just below 72 and above 69. The MACD is very, very close to its signal line, just a little bit above zero there. So mildly bullish, I would say, but not strongly so. The ADX is at 11. Now that's a very, very low reading there. Anything below 10 is extreme reading, but that is telling you loud and clear this is a trading vehicle. So buy weakness, sell strength in it. But we're not getting much strength or weakness. You know, it's having trouble reaching the extremes, even with my period of 7, which stretches out the RSI. It's having trouble reaching the extremes. The last time it did was here, came up through the lower line here. So this would be my buy signal here. But no, there's no power in it at all. And it's flat. It's flat. And if it goes up, I'd sell it. If it goes down, I'd buy it, because it's really very flat indeed. The 20 period moving average is going up. The 50 period moving average is almost horizontal, and so is the 200. All those things happen when the market is flat. So the message is here, there is no trend in it. It's a trading vehicle, sell strength, buy weakness, but there isn't a lot of volatility which you need to have that for that strategy to be profitable.
Okay, thanks. We've got time for one more, Trevor.
It's up to you. I'm happy.
Yeah, let's squeeze in one more. Okay. Bijan asked a question, quite an interesting one. I think I want to hear the answer to this as well. Why don't we work on pure charts without indicators?
That is a good question. Some people do, I've got to say that, and particularly candlestick people who use the patterns, the dojis, the haramis, and so forth, do that. And there are still some people that look only for the trend lines and the heads and shoulders and that, and don't have any oscillators. But the oscillators help a lot. So when you come down to test the support level, it depends. What the chart doesn't tell you is, let's just have a look. So go back to the euro here. So when we look at, say, this channel here, you go to this upper part, test the upper side of the channel. Now we've got the channel, that's on the chart, and we're testing it. We know where it is and where being beyond it is. But what it doesn't tell you, the chart doesn't tell you, is how you're approaching it. How much strength is there in the approach? Is it up to an extreme? Is it overbought? Is it moving up already overbought, or is it moving up and it's really not overbought, and therefore it could easily go further? All this kind of information comes from the oscillators. The ADX, for example, with this very low reading here, nothing to do with the chart at all, but this is a calculation of how trendy is, a sort of shape thing, and so the shape is not going up at 45 degrees or down at 45 degrees. It's the opposite. It's not exactly flat, it's just going nowhere, and that takes the ADX reading down to these low levels here. Now if the market is flat, then selling strength and buying weakness, selling strength, buying weakness, selling strength is a good strategy. But if the market's got a strong trend then you want to buy the strength in it, and you want to sell the weakness in it. Exactly the opposite. So the ADX, which has nothing to do with charting, tells you how to behave. What's your attitude to the security? So there, the last one we were looking at there, my attitude was that that pair was flat, and also therefore trading. If you're going to make money from it, it's going to be selling strengths and buying weakness. But in fact, news are so insipid that there was no opportunity. There's not enough volatility in it to get that. Here we are having enough volatility, but only just, I must say, only just, even though it's that big pair.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Bijan. Okay, well, I think that's all we have time for this week. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to you as well, Trevor. Please join us again, same time, same place next week. Before you go, just a quick reminder to fill in the survey at the end. It is the same questions as last week, but we have new attendees arriving every week, so we're still trying to build information about this. The webinar we produce for you guys, so it's worth your while to answer the questions, helps us improve it. Trevor, do you have anything else to add this week?
No, thank you very much indeed, everybody. I think by next week we'll probably have resolved some of those outstanding issues. We hope, and certainly by the week after.
The US election next week, Trevor. Oh my, the next week should be a very interesting week.
Yeah, and we hopefully will be going into the tunneling part of the Brexit negotiations. So maybe we've got one more week of this sort of behaviour, and then we'll know where we're going, I think, after that. And the problem is that once we do go, it'll be hard to chase it. That's the thing. That's why we must concentrate on these boundaries, that where are the significant levels, so that we're quick to act. We know what to do when the markets make their moves.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Trevor. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
And I was going to say, may the trend be with you.
Yeah, you can. Thank you very much.
Okay,
bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.